So in order to do research so that you can publish, often that you need money. And money, unless you have your own money or you get money from your job, you need to get some grant money. So in this discussion, we're going to look at choosing a grant that can support your research. So grant writing requires your research to fit with the goals of the grantor. So it's difficult just to say, well, this is what I want to do research on, give me money. You've got to be able to fit what you're doing with what the grantor wants to apply. So if you look at if you look at a grant, and this, what I gave is a sample grant that I applied for, you can kind of see what kinds of values the grantor will have. So in this grant, it says Digital First strives to inspire innovative instruction via emerging technologies. So you need to choose an emerging technology. In this case, it happened to be like iPads or something, mobile technology, and some new type of instruction. And to build creative, pedagogically sound. So you have to be able to argue that your approach is pedagogically sound. Learning and teaching and learning practices at The Ohio State University via the implementation of student-focused mobile technology. So it's about mobile technology, iPads, phones, something like that. It could be a great grant on something else, on laptops, but they're not looking here for laptops. You're looking for, does your grant fit in with this key idea? So again, what you're looking for is that the grant will apply the outline of your proposal. So here the outline is to increase student engagement, to facilitate greater instructor efficiency, to enable any place, anytime learning through purposeful technology use, to document the effectiveness of mobile learning, to redesign an existing course. And so this is an outline of your proposal. Your proposal will need to include each one of those goals. And so that's the main focus of your proposal. No matter what you're actually interested in, your proposal will have to address each of those issues. And there are problems often, for me, I know there are often problems in the grant. One is often getting a departmental match. So again, you have to figure out how to work around some of the problems. If they want a departmental match, your department doesn't have any money, how can you work around that? Well, in some cases you can get release time, or maybe they'll lend you some equipment, something. Now, their goal is both to offset some of their costs, but they also want to show that your department supports your research. So you're really trying to show your department supports your research, even if this may not be exactly what they had in mind. But if you can show that whatever it is they give you indicates that your department is supportive, you may be able to sort of work around the problem. Grants usually have requirements. In this case, sort of what you can't use the funding for. It may say what you can use the funding for, or what you can't use the funding for, and when you can use the funding. So they want to support new research, for example. You can't go back and say, I've already completed this research. Could you reimburse me? It's important with doing a grant that you can try to get as much information. Many times you'll be able, if it's a local grant, you'll be able to, they may have a session where you can meet some of the people on the committee. If it's not a local grant, they have a website. So a lot of times they'll have examples of successful grants that you can study as models. And so collect as much information, get a sense of questions, you can always contact them and say what questions that you have. It's a more interactive process, so you probably have a number of ways in which you can specifically ask to see how to shape your grant or whether your research fits in with what the grant is looking to do. Grants are evaluated, again, based on the values of the person giving the money. In this case, for example, the values were departmental impact, how many courses they want to show that it impacted lots of students. That may not always be a value, but for this organization, they wanted you to show that it's going to have the most impact across the larger number of courses for the largest number of students. Most grants, of course, want to make sure you can succeed. So normally you can have a plan. Sometimes they'll ask you for your CV, see whether you have experience doing the kind of work you want to do. If there's nothing worse, and I've done this, which is to fail to complete the grant. Often grants have deliverables. It could be a report. In many cases, here, for example, might be a presentation that you need to make. It could be a published article. It could be any number of different things that the grant want to see in order so they can have some artifact that they can show that their money, wherever they're getting the money from, is going to good use. And you may be able to, what resources can you bring? So they often want to know, do you have equipment? They're not going to supply everything, so they want to make sure that you have enough equipment that you can supply what it is that they're not going to supply. Again, it's not always a precise process, and sometimes it's surprising you can get the grant. The grant writing process, again, sometimes they spell it out, but again, how clear it is you're able to describe your research, to what degree is the focus addressed. And again, this is not about original thinking. It's about making sure you incorporate the values from the grant. So if they use certain words, you can copy those words. It's not considered plagiarism. How important is the research? And this is something you should be getting used to in all of your writing, is to describe its importance, its scope, who is this covering? Is it covering a course in this case? Is it covering a specific group of people? And what's the usefulness of this research? How useful it is, again, often toward the goals of the organization giving them money. They want to know whether you have a clear assessment plan. Do you know whether the research is going to be successful or not? Again, it's a little different, than publishing, but here you have to announce ahead of time how you're going to evaluate your own research. And then what's the probability of success? They want to make sure the money is well spent. So they need to make sure you have the support from your institution to support you. In case you run out of money, normally you can't go back and get more money, so you need some kind of support. And do you understand what resources that you have to bring to supplement the resources the grant will supply? And then often they ask for timelines to see, okay, so you can think through when the research is going to be completed and what exactly you're going to do at each stage of the research. So in general then, what is a good grant application? Again, you want to show that your research is a good fit with the values of the organization. You want to show that you have a clear sense of what the goals and objectives are for your research match again the goals and objectives of the organization. You have a sense of evaluation so that there's a clear way of measuring whether the grant is successful, what kinds of outcomes or deliverables that you may need to present. Often it may not simply be doing the grant. Sometimes it is, but sometimes you have to present something. What's the contribution of your grant to the culture of the institution? If it's a grant from the university, how is it going to aid the university? And then all kinds of things like how much support, how much matching funds, what other documents or letters of support, what have you already done in order to make sure this is going to go as smoothly as possible. But again, it's a critical process in terms of obtaining support, sometimes just so you have the time to do the research, time to write your papers. And grants could include publication conferences as well. So it's a good chance to get support in general, not just for your research, but for the whole publication process.